Hello, friends. Today I'm continuing with my reading of The Magical Carpenter of Japan, uh, translated by Dickens from the Japanese. And without further ado, I shall go to chapter 4, which is the next chapter I have to read. I've done the first three. So here we go. And it's Hiroöka. Um, so, Chapter 4, Hiroöka. How Hiroöka carried off Yamabito's mother and how she was rescued from death by Matsumitsu. After leaving Suminawa, Matsumitsu fared on alone, carrying his wallet on his back and letting his feet bear him forward as quickly as possible. After some 10 leagues tramp, he came to a roadside tavern a little after the hour of the ape, about 4 p.m., and entered the house to rest and refresh. Sitting on a settle, he noticed a man drinking his sake near him and bearing a bundle on his back. Observing a roundness in the bundle, he thought it might perhaps be caused by the lost gourd being packed in it. He wondered a good deal and tried to think of some plan of getting a look at what the bundle contained, but could hit upon none. Getting furtively behind the man, he considered the bundle from above, which made the fellow turn round suddenly and exclaim angrily, "What does this chap want, spying at a bundle on a man's back?" Next, Matsumitsu came in front and, bending down a little, moved his hands about in such a way as to signify, "Pray open that bundle of yours." But the fellow could not make out what he wanted. "He must be dumb," muttered the man at last. "He says nothing. What can he be thinking of? I can make nothing of him." So, putting down his bundle on the mats, he rested his elbow on it and went on sipping his sake. Matsumitsu still longed to know what the bundle contained, and could not keep his eyes off it. Meanwhile, the man, under the influence of the sake, became drowsy and began to nod his head sleepily, whereupon Matsumitsu crept quietly up to him, and laying a head gently upon the bundle, began to draw it cautiously away, when suddenly its owner started out of his snooze, exclaiming, "Does this beggar want to steal my bundle? It contains something, a treasure, the like of which is not to be found in the whole land, such that only sennin and tennin can make any use of." Tennin are Buddhist immortals, female angels clad in feathers who sing and dance. Sennin, see note, previous note. "You seem to hanker after it a good deal. You must be a thief and think you can easily rob me of my bundle, eh?" With a grin, he then shouldered his burden and left the tavern, grumbling angrily. Matsumitsu, as he heard the fellow talk of a treasure and sennin, felt more certain than ever that the bundle contained the gourd he wanted, and followed the man cautiously out. The latter walked on, humming carelessly to himself as he went, when suddenly Matsumitsu caught him by the nape of the neck. With a flourish of his arms, the man threw his assailant backwards, so that he was forced to quit his hold, and flew at him furiously. But first of all, it appeared that he did really carry something of value in his bundle. He laid down his burden on a mound by the roadside, and grasping the cudgel he bore, struck out valiantly. Matsumitsu had a cudgel too, and the pair began a quarterstaff combat vigorously enough. After a while, both were exhausted, and the bundle bearer shouted, "Let us stop a bit. I have something to say." Matsumitsu agreed, and his antagonist, drawing a deep breath, exclaimed, "From my youth upwards, neither man nor dog has been able to stand before my cudgel, as I have often proved, so that I used to boast that no one in the whole Eastland, Kanto area, I think, could surpass me at stick play. But you are so good at the game as almost to equal me. Indeed, you astonish me. Tell me who you are, and I will tell you who I am." Matsumitsu, who felt his dumbness very keenly, could not of course say a word in reply, and remained gazing at the man, who at last cried, "There must be some reason for your not telling me your name, but as you have set your heart upon seeing what I have here, though 'tis a treasure precious as the great bear itself, I do not mind showing it to you." He then rose and, Taking his bundle up, laid it quietly before Matsumitsu. Now, he cried, open it, and see what it contains for yourself. Matsumitsu was delighted and respectfully lifted the bundle over and over again to his forehead. He then undid the cord that fastened it, and there rolled out koa, what they keep in the sleeping chambers of sick old men, a pot de luxe. Astonished at this unexpected revelation, Matsumitsu looked up in confusion while the bearer muttered somewhat hurriedly, "'Tis what the court gentlemen of City Royal, Kyoto, use instead of a more vulgar convenience. In the East Land we rarely see such a thing, but my master is going to entertain a guest, and wished to have such a piece of crockery ready, so he ordered me to find one somewhere and borrow it, and I was taking it with me when you deigned to cast eyes on it. Now I see you are a trustworthy gentleman. I show it to you, precious object as it is, in confidence. My master himself has not yet seen it, and in the meanwhile, of course, as I have only let you see it in confidence because you wanted so much to see it, you will say nothing about it." The man wrung his hands in some uncertainty, but Matsumitsu, though he saw his mistake, after lifting the object respectfully to his forehead, wrapped it up carefully and returned the bundle to its bearer, who, after several times lifting it to his forehead, shouldered it as before, and with a twist of his features, exclaimed, "I have got nothing out of this unexpected cudgel bout. My arms and legs ache with your hits, almost beyond bearing." He then started off as best he could, but Matsumitsu, producing a writing which Suminawa had given him, handed it to his late antagonist, who read as follows: "The bearer, being afflicted with dumbness, is going down to the East Land to seek a cure. While he lodges at any place he may find suitable, you are requested kindly to afford him every assistance." On reading this document, the bundle bearer turned to Matsumitsu and said, "Surely we must have rubbed sleeves together in some former existence. Come with me to my master's house, where I can offer you a night's lodging." The pair then fared on together, and after a time came to a mansion with an imposing roof and gateway, which was the residence of Hiroöka no Choja. Taking his road fellow into a small chamber, the servitor there left him while he went within. Presently a great clamour was heard coming from the interior of the house, which grew louder and louder. Making his way towards it, and looking about furtively, Matsumitsu espied Hiroöka holding an old dame of 50 years of age, while he reviled her angrily, saying, "I had you brought here because of my great affection for your son, which I have often declared without ever getting any response. That is why I have got you here, where I intend to keep you, until you allow Yamabito to bear me brotherly company." Despite all his invective, however, the old dame would not consent. "If you still continue to refuse," pursued her captor in a loud and angry tone, "I will have you killed on the spot. So answer me." "You cruel wretch," cried the victim, lifting up her face drowned in tears. "My son was born in a peasant's hut, 'tis true, but he is of gentle descent and of a far better family than your own. Is that the reason why you are always casting evil eyes at him? Take his mother's life if it must be, but you shall not have your way with my son." Hirooka fell into a paroxysm of violent anger and roared out, "Good, good! In that case you shall know your peril. Here, some of you fellows, there," he added, calling his servitors, "take this woman and shut her up as before in the upper chamber." The men accordingly seized the old dame by the hands and dragged her up the stair ladder to the upper story. The stair would be little more than a ladder with treads only. That's the footnote. Okay. Here they bound her to a post and left her loudly lamenting her lot without ceasing. Calling one of his attendants, Hirooka said, "She won't be able to stand this treatment long. By tomorrow morning her spirit will be broken, and she will do what I want. If she should remain obstinate, however, in refusing her consent, let her be taken tomorrow evening and thrown into the river yonder." "A pretty rascal, this," said Matsumitsu to himself. "Somehow or other, the woman's life must be saved." But he could hit upon no way of helping her just then. And Next page. All right. Withdrew to the room where his road fellow had taken him. His companion ere long joined him and set a meal before him, while he whispered to a man who sat by, "I was told to provide for the comfort of the old dame up yonder, but as things are going, it seems no use." Matsumitsu, having finished his supper, looked about him and noticed that the master of the house had gone to his own chamber and was asleep. Presently the housefolk, too, finished eating, and all went to their couches and were soon fast asleep also. Matsumitsu kept awake and waited for an hour or so until he heard the bell strike the hour of the rat, midnight. The whole household was asleep. All was perfectly quiet. Not a sound was heard but the hum of insects in the forecourt. Cautiously feeling his way, he passed through the kitchen and penetrated to the interior parts of the mansion. Everybody, man or woman, was sound asleep. Only their snoring was heard. At last he reached the stair-ladder, and just as he struck his foot against the first step, he heard a woman's voice crying, "Thief! Thief!" to his great alarm. Curling himself up on the mats, he listened, and presently heard the same voice murmur, "It is no thief, it's my husband, this way." Then followed a loud snoring, showing that the words had been spoken in a dreamy sleep. Again he began to mount the stair, taking care to make no noise, and reached the top, but all was so dark he could not distinguish the shape of anything. So opening the window, he let in the light of a nemachi. Footnote, nemachi moon, the moon of the 19th night according to the Chinese calendar, which would rise about 10:30 p.m., 2 hours and more later than the full moon of the 15th, a late moon not rising until after one has gone to bed. Nete orite matsu koto. So here, opening the window, he let in the light of a nemachi moon, whereupon everything became visible. At the sight of him, the old dame trembled with fear, but Matsumitsu reassured her by stroking her on the back, and then undid the cord which bound her to the post. She gazed at him in silence, filled with astonishment, while he unwrapped the set of bamboo tubes Suminawa had made and which Matsumitsu had brought with him, and joining them up together constructed a sort of bridge or ladder like that which had enabled them to cross the chasm in Senland, and this he let down from the window-sill. Then, taking the old dame by the hand, he led her to the ladder. She now understood that the intruder had come to rescue her, and clasping her hands together, did him obeisance. The ladder had been so thrown that when she got to the bottom of it, she found herself outside the wall of the forecourt. Overjoyed, yet still afraid, she turned towards Matsumitsu and bowed herself before him most gratefully as she prepared to seek safety in flight. Just then, suddenly, a stranger appeared and without saying a word, took her on his back and ran off. Matsumitsu, meanwhile, unknowing what had occurred, drew up the ladder, took it to pieces, and wrapped it up as before, and then began cautiously to descend the stair that led to the ground floor. There, to the surprise of both, he met Hirooka, who, hearing no cries from the upper chamber, had awoke and come to the foot of the stair to see what it meant. "Yaore, a thief," he shouted, seizing Matsumitsu with both hands. The whole household was up in a moment, and great was the noise and confusion. "I have got hold of the thief," cried Hiroöka. "Bring a rope, some of you." This was soon done, and Matsumitsu was securely bound. Then, recollecting how suddenly the dame's cries had ceased, Hirooka rushed up the stair, and looking round saw that the chamber was empty. "Ha!" he claimed on returning. "'Tis that fellow there who has helped her to escape," striking Matsumitsu to the ground as he spoke. "Who brought this rascal here?" he added, to which it was replied, "The man who returned yesterday with what you had ordered, sir." Matsumitsu's roadfellow was at once seized and soundly flogged. As to Matsumitsu himself, however cruelly he was beaten, he could of course utter not a word. He simply lay there dumb until Hirooka exclaimed angrily, "What an obstinate brute he is! Will nothing make him open his mouth? He looks like a traveller. Open that wallet of his and see what it contains." The wallet was brought accordingly, and Hirooka, crying, "We shall find some stolen property in it, no doubt," ordered it to be opened. What was found? packed under 2 or 3 garments, was what looked like a freshly decapitated woman's head. Startled at the unexpected sight, Hiroöka held a torch to the head, and on examining it, took it to be that of Yamabito's mother. Surprised as he was, he yet thought to himself, "Why, this is a piece of great good luck. The fellow has murdered the very woman I intended to throw into the river tomorrow evening." But turning to the captive, he said aloud, "Why hast thou done this, and where hast thou put away the body?" Matsumitsu, of course, could make no answer. On ransacking the wallet, the writing was found declaring his dumbness. As he read it, an evil thought came into Hiroöka's head, and smiling grimly, he tore the writing to pieces. "A good idea," he muttered to himself, and turning to his servitors, he cried, "Tie the fellow up carefully so that he cannot escape." When the dawn which was at hand appeared, Hiroöka went to the residence of the deputy governor of the province, with whom he was on very friendly terms, and said, "There has been a calamity in my house." "What is it?" "There is a fellow named Takeshiba no Yamabito who lives in Yabara and who has been in the habit of treating his mother with unfilial cruelty. The day before yesterday he beat her as if he wanted to kill her, so that she ran for safety to my house. He then hired a man to murder her, whom he secretly got into the house last night, and so effected his purpose. We have caught the villain and bound him. At first he confessed that he had done the deed by Yamabito's orders, but after he was bound he pretended to be dumb and would not utter a word. The matter does not really concern me, but the woman ran to my house for shelter, and has no doubt been cruelly murdered there by her son's order. You will, sir, no doubt order these men to be brought up before you for examination." All this story Hiroöka related as if it were scripture truth from beginning to end. The deputy, who was in the habit of borrowing money from Hiroöka, and so of course treated him in a friendly manner, said, "Do not let this troublesome affair concern you in the least. I will look to it." Some conversation followed, after which Hiroöka took his departure. In due course, a number of soldiers appeared, coming from the governor's court, at Hiroöka's house, and took away Matsumitsu with them, who thought he must be dreaming as he was led away and brought up before the governor, where he found a handsome youth who was placed by his side. The governor at once began to interrogate Matsumitsu, but of course got no answer. "The fellow shams dumbness, I am told." The governor then turned to Yamabito. "Thou art a sake brewer by trade, named Yamabito?" "I am, sir," was the answer. "And plotting with this fellow, thou'st committed the horrid crime of murdering thy mother. Confess the whole matter, detestable wretch that thou art." The governor spoke in the sternest voice, and Yamabito was unable to restrain his tears as he answered. "How could I be guilty of such inhuman conduct? My mother unexpectedly left the house yesterday, and we do not know where she has gone. We have looked everywhere for her, and now your honour informs me that this man here has killed her." "Yes," cried the governor, "he has. With their own eyes several persons saw the crime committed." On hearing this, the youth lifted up his voice, a literal translation, koe wo agete, and wept. "Confess and hide nothing," said the governor sternly, "and say how thou hast plotted her death with this man." "How could I possibly be guilty of such a crime?" answered Yamabito, "and as to this man, I never saw him in my life before." "Why then should a man thou hast never seen kill thy mother? It must have been at thy bidding that the murder was done." The youth still insisted on his innocence, and at last the governor became angry and ordered the attendants to bind the pair to a tree and beat them. 2 men accordingly seized Matsumitsu and Yamabito and bound them to a tree in the forecourt. "Now confess, and that speedily, or you'll have a bad time of it." The fellows then plied their sticks vigorously and beat the victims until the blood ran over their limbs and they could scarcely draw breath. Matsumitsu said to himself, "My life is not worth pitying, but a false charge." Nureginu kite, wearing wet clothes, equivalent to falsely charged. A false charge has been trumped up against this youth. It is cruel thus to torture him. I know all about his mother being carried off and kept prisoner by Hiroöka. I would I could disclose the whole story, but as I cannot speak, what am I to do? They go on beating him, and already he is sinking back senseless. It were as well that my life came to an end. However, I am a useless cripple, tongue-tied as I am. O Senland powers, if ye possess divine might, have mercy in this extremity, and deign to grant me just this once to speak. Thus prayed he with all his soul, until his whole heart found expression in one loud cry, Aware! Aware! Mercy! Mercy! This fellow, cried the soldiers, who sham dumb, can stand it no longer, and finds his tongue. We will beat him all the harder. Nay, exclaimed Matsumitsu in a mighty voice, stop, stop, I pray you stop. I have something to say. Then say it, and quickly, cried the governor. I have never seen this youth before. I was unexpectedly offered a night's lodging in Hirooka's mansion, and discovered that he had carried off an old dame whom he was treating shamefully, saying, I have a great affection for your son, Yamabito, but he will not return it. That is why I have had you brought here. But the old dame would not listen to him, whereupon he ordered some of his men to drown her in the river next day. When I heard that, I was seized with compassion for her, and as night came, I took advantage of the darkness to go up to the chamber where she was imprisoned, and helped her to escape. The governor listened to Matsumitsu's tale, but shook his head. No, no, thou didst thyself kill her. Here is her head. What is the use of denying it? That head is not hers, said Matsumitsu. It is the handiwork of my master, Inabe no Suminawa. What dost mean by handiwork? Thou talkest nonsense. Thy beating has driven thy wits out of thee. Let the governor deign to take out the head and consider it more attentively, said Matsumitsu. The governor did so. He opened the box which contained the head and took it out and considered it. How can this be a mere wooden head? He said. The youth, who had now recovered his senses on seeing the head, cried, "'Tis my mother's head," and wept without end. My master, pursued Matsumitsu, is a Hida Craftsman of matchless skill. This is not the only object he has so fashioned as to cheat men's eyes. He has made many others. Split it in two, and it will be seen what it is made of. The governor thought he might well act upon this suggestion, and drawing his sword, smote the head, and cut it in two halves, whereupon a small horse bell rolled out, tinkling on the mats, proving that the head was nothing but a counterfeit in wood, to the governor's astonishment at the art of its maker. Still, he said, we don't know where the old dame has gone to, so you may not yet be released, but after what you have stated, that fellow Hiroöka shall be arrested and examined. Are you not Suminawa's companion? Now broke in Yamabito. The master has been lodging at our house, and yesterday and today helped in the search after my mother. Matsumitsu was delighted to hear this. I saved your lady mother, sir, so that she got away safe from Hiroöka's house last night. So then my mother is safe, exclaimed Yamabito, overjoyed at the tidings and praising heaven in his satisfaction. Hirooka now appeared, and on taking his seat was thus addressed by the governor. You said this man had killed an old dame in your house, such was your accusation, but the story has turned out to be quite false. How should I say what was false, was the answer. The fellow produced the head before my very eyes, and said that he had been ordered by Yamabito to kill her. Well, interrupted the governor, look at the head there. Hirooka took up the head and considered it, and saw that it was a mere counterfeit made of wood. Thereupon words failed him. Your charge of murder, added the governor, was a mere invention of your own, as the head proves. The truth is that, filled with malice, you tried to fix the crime upon Yamabito. Hirooka changed colour, but still he said, This head is a counterfeit one, no doubt. But we took the man at the foot of the stair leading to the chamber where the dame was, and she has not been found since. She must, after all, have been murdered, and this man must have been the murderer. Here Matsumitsu interrupted him. Why should I murder the old dame? I had no quarrel with her. Did not you yourself declare your intention to kill her? She came to me, rejoined Hirooka, for protection, and out of pity I received her kindly. To kill her would have been a mere folly. While they were thus disputing, a kite came flying into the forecourt, and wheeling round and round, let drop a written paper, whereupon the bird disappeared. The governor ordered the paper to be brought to him, and as soon as he had opened and glanced at it, he cried out, "Bind me that fellow Hirooka!" So bound he was, and the governor continued, "Last spring you committed an outrage upon Yamabito at Mukaigaoka. Now you abduct his mother and shut her up, tied to a post in an upper chamber. This very night you designed to kill her, and so commanded your servitors. This is the plaint laid against you. She lies ill from your cruel treatment of her, and so cannot come herself. All this is written down in this paper of complaint. It is no slight offence to bring a counterfeit head here, as if it were a real one, to mislead justice," concluded the governor in an angry tone. Hirooka, seeing that it was no use trying to conceal anything, confessed the whole villainous plot, and the governor, telling him he was a hateful wretch, sent him there and then to prison. Yamabito and Matsumitsu, being guilty of no offence, are released and can return to their homes, were the governor's final words. That just at the proper moment the kite should have brought the letter of plaint astonished everybody. To bring it just as good men were at the extremity of distress, was it not a manifestation of the grace of heaven? So all the spectators of the scene thought, from the governor down to the attendants, in their surprise at the prodigy. Yamabito and Matsumitsu, now greatly relieved, returned to the sake tavern. There they found the old dame lying on a bed of sickness. Suminawa had attended to her. All were glad to see each other safe and sound in the house once more, and the old dame shed tears of joy as she exclaimed, "I owe my life to Matsumitsu. As I got down outside the wall, all of a sudden a man ran up, and taking me on his back, hurried away. Heart and liver failed me, while the man, with what intention I know not, bore me as far as the entrance of the village, where he set me down and made off in haste, I know not whither. But for his bringing me here, that Hirooka would have got hold of me again, and I should have suffered further ill. Now and again one meets with such kind folk in this world." She wept at the recollection, and Yamabito said, "We were all from the governor down astonished at the appearance of the kite bringing my mother's plaint." Upon this, Suminawa got up, and producing something that lay by him, which was seen to be a wooden object, exclaimed, "Here is the kite. For a certain reason," he continued, "an equipment of tools was bestowed on me by a wondrous being, with which, he told me, whatever I dared to make, I could not fail to achieve. Yet so far I had not tried them until this day, when you two were haled to the governor's court, and your lady mother said she wanted to lay a complaint against Hirooka because of his designs against her. But being so ill, she could not attend to prepare it, and as I could not leave her, seeing there was no one to look after her, while she was inditing her plaint, I made a kite of wood, and found it could fly just as I desired. But that it flew to the governor's court and returned here was not the effect of any skill of mine. That was due to the virtue inherent in the tools the holy man bestowed upon me." When Suminawa had finished speaking, the old dame, together with the others, were greatly surprised. "What a genius!" they exclaimed together, bowing in obeisance before him. "I am delighted," pursued Suminawa, turning to Matsumitsu, "to see that you've got rid of your dumbness." Matsumitsu then told his tale, how he had been tied to a tree and beaten, and how after he had parted from the master, he had made the mistake about the shibin, and had thought of robbing the bearer of it, the shibin, the gourd, and came to lodge for a night in Hirooka's mansion. In short, everything that had occurred since their separation, at which narration all fell to laughing heartily. The old dame, who had come to place great confidence in Suminawa, now addressed him, saying, "My son is young yet, and has no proper relatives, nor anyone to help him. Will you be elder brother to him henceforth, and take him under your protection, sir?" "Wonderful indeed is this bond," answered Suminawa, "which your trust in me prompts you to establish between your son and myself, and from this day I hope we shall be on fraternal terms with each other. But I live a long way off, and it will be difficult for me to render him much service. I shall, however, remain here 4 or 5 days longer to make something which you shall all see before I go. I came down to the Eastland for a certain purpose. The purpose was to trace out the youth who had been cast down the precipice in Senland. This is from the footnote. But there are reasons why I cannot reveal it. Here, Matsumitsu, in some trepidation, interrupted him, saying, "Master, say no more, or perhaps you too will be struck dumb." Suminawa then shut himself in a place apart to make what he had in mind, and nothing was heard but the sound of hatchet and saw for some 3 days, at the end of which he said, "Come and see, I have finished my task." Pushing open the shoji, the paper screens of the room where he had been working, he displayed a great and powerful horse of wood, looking just as if it were alive. All regarded it with boundless astonishment and admiration. "'Tis fashioned upon the model of the wooden horse Shokatsu Komei. I have not thought it necessary to search out the story of this Chinese craftsman," is in the footnote. "Made in Morokoshi, an old Japanese name of China. And I have used not a little of my craftsmanship upon it." The master then led the horse out into the forecourt and mounted it, when it moved its legs and stepped out just like a living animal. Matsumitsu was especially delighted and cried, "I should like to ride it too." Suminawa thereupon got down and backed the horse to the veranda. Matsumitsu at once threw his legs across it and, drawing the reins, began to make it walk. "Don't draw the reins tight," shouted Suminawa. "If you do, he will be off at full speed." Matsumitsu accordingly held the reins loosely and walked the horse through the gateway. "Wonderful!" he cried. "'Tis easier to ride than a real horse." After having gone some 100 yards or so, he thought of what Suminawa had said, and was tempted to try if he could make the horse go faster. So he pulled at the reins, and in a moment the horse bolted like an arrow from the bow. "Anaya!" shouted the rider, who could do nothing but cling to the animal's neck. "Stop the horse! Stop it!" he bawled. But who knew how to stop it? The horse continued to fly onwards like the wind. Matsumitsu, blinded by the speed, felt his wits deserting him. He could only cling and cling, lying on the horse's neck, letting the animal gallop on as it pleased. "Yo, yo, oh, oh!" he roared out, but the horse continued to fly over the ground in a northerly direction without stopping. And then we have the Hokusai illustrations. So Matsumitsu, while on his journey in search of the gourd, meets a man bearing a bundle and fights with him that he may get possession of it. So that's the stave fight. See pages 91 to 95. Matsumitsu takes a protuberance in the bundle to be the gourd he is in search of. The dike of an irrigation channel runs across the center of the picture. Mount Fuji is seen in the distance to the left. To the right are 2 pillars dedicated to gods. On the nearest tree hangs an old straw sandal or horseshoe, hung up as a sort of offering instead of being thrown away. Beneath the tree is seen a sluice for irrigation. Okay, so I can see the sandal up there, just here. Mount Fuji is over here. And a sluice for irrigation beneath the tree. Okay. Right, next one. Plate 13. Hirooka seizes and keeps prisoner Yamabito's mother, but Matsumitsu makes a bridge and lets her down, whereupon a stranger carries her off on his back. Pages 96 to 101. The bridge was that used by Suminawa to cross to Horai. See plate 2 and page 58. So the stranger carries her off on his back. That's the stranger here on the left side, by the look of it. There we are. Next one. On the accusation of Hiroöka, Yamabito and Matsumitsu are roughly handled and tortured. And see page 103. The supposed women's head woman's head is really a wooden one of the craftsman's handiwork. So pretty good craftsman is what you have to say there. Matsumitsu mounts the wooden horse made by the Hida craftsman, which suddenly runs away with him. As he is being carried along in fear and trembling, a tall man appears at a place called Ishibama, stops the horse, and rescues him. And that is the last of the plates for this, this particular chapter. And I shall stop the share here. And thank you once again if you have been with me until this point. Like, comment, subscribe if you will, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye now.